Hi everyone, my name is Molly Thompson-Smith and I'm a SCARPA athlete, and today I'm going to be taking you through around a 20-minute yoga flow that helps with mobility. And then after that I'll be answering a few questions, so if you want to ask any questions just comment in the box, and I guess we'll get started. By the way, I'm not a yoga instructor, I just do this a lot and I hope I can help you out by giving a few tips on what you want to look for when you do some poses. So we're going to start in extended child's pose, so take your knees out as wide as comfortable on the mat and just walk your arms forward. Try to sit back onto your heels. Then take your left arm and you're just going to thread it through underneath your right shoulder and soften down again. I like to hold each pose for around 10 seconds and then come up and move on to the other side. Okay, we're going to bring ourselves up to tabletop now and keep our toes curled. And we're going to do a few cat-cows. So for cow, you want to push your bum up, chest high and look up. And then for cat, you're just going to roll through to the other way. So really high back and really press into the ground with your hands. And transition. And again. And one more on each side. And now keep your toes curled. And you're going to send your hips back and up into downward facing dog. Feel free to have a little pedal here. Okay, and then you're going to bend your knees, look forwards and step between your hands. And then just hang down, let your head feel heavy, your arms feel heavy. You can have a slight bend in your knees if you want. And you're just going to fold here. Put your hands on the mat. Rise your hips up a little bit and try and flatten your back. You might have to come up a bit, hands on your shins here, for a halfway lift. Think about pulling your shoulders back, keeping this back straight and chest out. Now we're going to try and find a chair pose. So just literally imagine you're sat on a chair. Knees together, sit back, arms up. Really try and shift the weight back through your heels. And try and sink deeper if you can. And back into our forward fold. hands on the ground and step back into a high plank. And lower your knees to the ground for another tabletop. Keep your toes curled and shift your weight back through your hips and rise up. You're going to take your right hand, put it on your right heel, keep everything facing forward and lift your left arm up for half camel. And we're going to take it back to tabletop. And back into downward dog. So just shift your weight back, knees off the floor, hips up. Now we're going to take our right foot, put it in the center of our mat, and lift the left leg up. When you do this, you might want to open your hips up, but for now, try and keep them level. And your foot flexed. And now we're going to open our hips. Take your foot back to center. Look forwards. And I want to see if you can take your knee to your nose and hold for 3 seconds. And step. You're going to lower that back knee and lift your shoulders up. And now you're going to lift your arms up for crescent moon. Try and keep your shoulders soft and your hips facing forwards. Bring your hands together and down to your heart center. And then you're going to twist to the left. And once you've twisted, you're going to hook your right elbow against your left knee. So. Really try and find length in your spine. And hands back on the mat. And now we're going to extend this front leg so that it's straight by sending the hips back. And feel the stretch here. You can walk your hands wherever you want for this part. Okay, hands forward again. Roll back onto that front foot and lift that back leg. And we're just going to sit here for a little bit in a long lunge. Okay, as you straighten out this front leg, pivot your back foot onto your heel and lift for triangle. Try and keep your hips squared forwards at this point as well. Now you might want to step your foot in as we move into Warrior One. I'm going to rise up, have a bend in this front leg, but keep the twist in that back foot, and just raise your arms up with soft shoulders again. The more intense you want this to be, the more bend you have in your leg. Now we're going to open out to Warrior Two. You might want to shift that foot back a bit. Arms out to the side. And another bend in the front leg to look forwards to. For Reverse Warrior, we're going to send twist this palm so it faces upwards and send this arm up and overhead, and you're going to graze this side as you go over. And we're going to cartwheel back to the front of our mat and take it back to plank. Down to tabletop, keep those toes curled again, and we're going to do a half camel on the other side. So up, left hand goes to left heel, and right arm goes up. Put our hands back on the floor again. Go back into downward dog, and then we're going to do it all on the other side. So a few pedals here. Now we're going to put our left leg in the center, and right leg comes up. Remember to keep your hips square. And open it up. Flexed foot. And see if you can bring your knee to your nose for 3 seconds before stepping through. Lower that back leg and shoulders back in for your lunge. You're going to bring our arms up for crescent moon again. Remember to try and keep your shoulders down as you do this. And you're going to bring the hands together into the heart center. And then we're going to twist so that our left elbow goes against our right knee. And hands back to the mat. We're going to straighten our front leg and take a stretch here. Okay, and then we're going to bend this front leg again. Twist the back leg and straighten into triangle. Remember to keep those hips squared. And now we're going to rise into Warrior One. Might want to step in a little bit. Front leg bend, arms up. And breathe. We're going to open out into Warrior Two. And then we're going to take this left hand down the left side and rise our right arm up for reverse warrior. And we're going to cartwheel back to into our plank, and then into a downward dog. A few breaths here. Okay, now we're going to step our right foot to the right corner of our mat. Lower that back leg for a runner's lunge. Try to keep your shoulders up and chest forward. Now you're going to lift that back leg up off the floor and hold here for a few seconds. And now we're going to plant our left hand, so the opposite one to our foot forward. And we're going to take this right arm and rotate up and twist as far back as you like. Bring that hand back down, plant it on the floor, twist onto the side of your back foot, and we're going to do the same but on the other side. Okay, bring that arm back down, and now we're going to step our left foot forward into a yogi squat. So for a yogi squat, you want your toes out and your heels in. Just sit back and hands to heart. You're going to stand up and go into a forward fold again. But this time with your feet slightly wider than before. And just hang loose. So you can twist around if you want. Okay, hands planted by the feet, and step your right foot back this time. And we're going to go back into our deep lunge again. You can put your knee on the floor for now. Remember, shoulders back. And now we're going to take that back knee off. And we're going to do our dragonfly on this side now. So right hand stays down, left arm sweeps up and over. Left arm comes down, plants next to the left foot, turn the back foot, and we're going to do it on this side. You can really use the opposition against your arm and knee here to your advantage to get as much twist as possible. And back down. And we're going to step back into our yogi squat one more time. Okay, we're going to stand up and then we're going to twist. And have our feet parallel to the shorter ends of our mat this time. You can go as wide as you want. And now we're just going to fold forward. Move your feet wider if you'd like to get a deeper stretch. put our left hand in the center, so directly beneath our face, and we're going to sweep this right hand up and twist so that our shoulders are stacked on top of each other. And switch. And back down. And now you can walk your fingertips back as far as you can behind you. And you're just going to hold here for a few breaths. Walk your hands back to the center. And now we're going to shift all our weight onto one side. So I'm going to go to the right. And I prefer to be on my toes, but you can sit on your heels if you want. We're going to twist this left foot, flex it so our toes are pointing up at the sky. And we're going to try and straighten our back and lengthen in the spine. Right hand stays on the floor, and we're just going to lift up with the left and twist. Try not to crumple too much in your torso. And this hand comes down, reset, and switch sides. Remember to keep these toes flexed and this foot flexed so this leg is engaged. Left arm down on the ground and up with the right. And hands back on the floor. We're going to do one more fold in our one-legged stance. Hands to hips to bring yourself back up to standing. Feet together. And now we're going to sit. For our final exercise, we're going to hug the knees in and push our chest forward. And then we're going to slowly try and roll our back all the way down, one vertebrae at a time. And you can just rest here for a few breaths. And let the knees fall down to the side. For 5 breaths. Okay. So that was my roughly 20-minute, I can't see how long it's been, 25-minute yoga mobility routine. I hope you found some bits that were helpful for you and that you can do whenever you need to. So now I'm going to answer a few questions. I don't know if anyone's sent any on here. I don't think so. But feel free to add some questions on here if you want to ask anything. but for the questions I have... Okay, so someone has asked me, how often do you climb outside versus indoor climbing? That's a good question. And as everyone knows, coronavirus has affected life, but also my climbing competitions. So currently I don't have any World Cups scheduled for this year, which means there's an opportunity for me to rock climb, which I don't actually get to do that much when I have a competition season. So when I do the combined competition season, which is bouldering and lead and some speed World Cups, the bouldering season starts in April, and then the lead season finishes in November. So as you can see, that's like a pretty big chunk of the year where I'm busy traveling to competitions, or, you know, resting before them, or doing the last bits of training. So there's not really that much time for me to rock climb. But right now I'm actually out in Germany rock climbing in the Frankenjura, which is really, really nice. And I see rock climbing as kind of my the hobby side of climbing for me. Like, the plastic is kind of work, it's the competition, it's what I train to do, and the rock climbing is where I can really go out, be myself, enjoy it. So it's kind of more of a holiday thing. So in December, once all the competitions are done, so not so often, but I'm trying to get out a little bit more because I think it's really good for your climbing in general. I have a question in here. How is my finger injury now back to normal? Thanks for asking. Yeah, my finger's been really good for a while now. I had surgery at the beginning of 2018, so we're 2 and a bit years on. It took a little while where I had pain pretty much all the time, but I kind of expected to have pain for a long time. But I was actually really surprised that it stopped hurting after about a year. And so I've been very lucky to be able to climb pain-free most of the time. There are certain holds like pockets or really small crimps that I'm a little bit cautious about, but I think most of that is me psychologically rather than my actual finger. So it's doing really good now, and I don't feel limited by it on rock or in competitions or in training. So, I mean, I couldn't really ask for anything more. Okay, another one. What age is the best to start climbing as a child, and when did I start? So I started climbing when I was 7. It was actually my own birthday party. My parents were wonderfully supportive of myself and my brother when we were younger, and we did all kinds of sports for summer camps and after school, and all our birthdays were always a sport. So when I was 7, I picked climbing, and from then on I was hooked. But I mean, there really isn't like a perfect time to start climbing, and it's certainly never too late to start climbing. I have friends at the climbing wall who are in their 80s. I mean, they've been climbing a long time, but it just shows that climbing is a sport for everyone. And I guess maybe it's easier to pick up skills the younger you are, as I think kids just learn new things a bit quicker than adults do. So if you have children and you're interested in getting them into climbing, do it straight away. I guarantee they'll love it. So yeah, I mean, there is no real perfect age, but just starting is a good step. Bouldering or sport climbing, which one do I prefer? Okay, I think I'm definitely addicted to sport climbing. I just find so much satisfaction in climbing something long, and the feeling you get when you're super pumped and it's pure resistance climbing and you think you're going to fall, but you know you've got your elbows up and you're fighting as hard as you can, and you make it to the top. There's just something really special and satisfying about that. So I really love sport, but I do enjoy bouldering more as a social thing. I like bouldering with my friends. I think boulder rock trips are really fun, and just going down to the climbing wall for a boulder session with my friends, I would say, is like a hobby I enjoy doing. For someone who's only climbed indoors, what's your advice to climb outside for the first time? That is a really good question, and I'm sure there's lots of people right now who don't have access to a climbing wall but can go out rock climbing, and if you've never done it, it can be quite scary. I was someone who got into rock climbing quite late. I grew up in London. My parents are very indoor sport focused. We didn't really go out into the countryside that much, so it took me a while. I think I was mid to late teens when I really started rock climbing, and I'd say the key thing for me was being with people I felt comfortable around. Like, I was scared at times, but it was okay because I was with my friends and they understood that it was different for me to be on rock. So I think making sure you go out with people who are really experienced, know what they're doing, know how to rock climb safely, and can support you mentally on your transition from indoors to outdoors. I think that's really, really important. I'd say that's the most important thing. Running for training, how often? Oh, I'm someone who really doesn't like running that much. But once I start running, I really enjoy it and I want to do it all the time. But once I stop, I find it hard to get back into it. But usually I like to run maybe once or twice a week, at least once a week. I find it quite nice on a rest day as a bit of active recovery. I'm not a long runner. I mainly do a 5K run, just something to, feel like I've done something on a rest day. Any tips for a beginner? Climb as much as you possibly can. Just climbing is the best way to get better at climbing at the beginning. There's no need for, fancy training. There's no secret tips or anything. I think just going and doing more moves, getting more moves in the bank, trying different kinds of climbing on different kinds of holds, and just letting your body have time for climbing to feel instinctive. I think that's the most important thing at the beginning. And the more you do it, the better you'll get. But also I think climbing with other people who are better than you is a really good way to get better at climbing. Watching people who are more experienced on the wall, you can just see how their body knows what to do. That's quite interesting as a new climber, and you can see not what it's supposed to look like, because climbing is very individual, but good technique and just see how someone who's been on the wall for a long time moves. That's quite helpful. Does height matter in climbing? I would say height is definitely a factor in climbing, but I'd say it's not an excuse. In the World Cup circuit, I'm 5'2". There are climbers who are as tall as 6'2", 6'3", and we're all doing the same sport. So I think, yes, sometimes I can't reach something, but I can get my feet a lot higher, or I have much smaller fingers and some holds feel bigger to me. So I think height definitely does play a role in climbing, but it doesn't necessarily completely limit people. So if you're really tiny, you can still climb, and if you're massive, you can still climb too. Okay, I think that's it for me today. Oh, one last question. Best ways to improve arm and finger strength for beginners? Okay, I'd say take it slow. Finger strength is something you've got to build up over years, and people with really, really strong fingers are ones who have, been climbing for a decade, or, really looked after themselves and been doing it for a long time. So I'd say at the beginning, more climbing on smaller holds, where you've got your feet to support you, and just changing the holds that you use and doing much more volume. And then you can start adding pull-ups into your training and using a Beastmaker or a fingerboard. You can download their app, which has, I think, different levels, beginner, intermediate, advanced, for training methods for that. Take it slow and listen to your body. If something feels tweaky or hurts, don't push it, take a step back. But I think, climbing lots as a beginner is really good for finger strength and getting stronger generally in your arms, and then using a fingerboard and a pull-up bar once you're a little bit more advanced is a great way to get stronger. So thank you very much, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed my takeover on Sports Shoes Instagram channel, and I hope you can use my yoga flow at some point whilst you're in lockdown. And make sure you share this with your friends, and you keep safe at home, and tag at Sports Shoes in your no fun standing still at home stories, because we all want to see those. So stay safe, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in, and tag me in Sports Shoes in any of your videos. I'd love to see you doing any of my yoga or whatever. Cool. Bye, everyone.